two different value propositions, two different needs. Let's move on to the next building blocks of our business model canvas. Now, another very important component of the business model canvas is understanding the key activities. It's one of the most important things the business does in its effort to produce revenues and achieve its business goals. So in the example of our spice company, they have a couple of key activities. One, they grow their own spices, they grind them up and they produce them, but then also they distribute them through their logistics network to grocery stores as well as restaurants. So those are their key activities. So as you see, we're starting to develop a picture about this business that maybe even you might have been a little wishy-washy about giving $2 million to a spice company. But as you learn more and more about the deal, I might even be winning you over as you just get more information outside of just seeing a financial statement that shows you revenues and outflows, but you're starting to understand the actual business itself. Let's move on to the next building block. Next, we have our key resources, which are the most important assets needed to make our business model work. And in the case of our spice company, the key assets are our plants that allow us to create the spices. If I'm a credit analyst, one of the things that I'm asking is are there weather factors that may affect our plants and our crops that may impact our supply chain? Because the business model canvas helps us to identify both opportunities as well as risks associated with our particular loan opportunity. So in the case of our spice company, their key resources was the fact that they had special relationships with growers that were able to give them jalapenos and other types of chile spices that other competitors didn't have access to. So they had a competitive advantage. And so again, your key resources is what allows you to do something different than your competitors. And it's the key thing that allows your business model to work. So let's use another example. You have Cirque du Soleil and Ringling Brothers and Barnum Circus. So what would be the key resources for Ringling Brothers and Barnum Circus? Or when they were open, because I think they're not around anymore. The lions, tigers, and bears, right? Those were the key resources. They were the source of the entertainment, the key assets for that business model. But what about Cirque du Soleil? The people, right? The acrobats, the clowns, the gymnasts. Who do you think had a higher operating cost associated with managing their key resources? It was Ringling Brothers and Barnum Circus, right? Because they had to train and house and feed those animals, and they had a higher operating cost than Cirque du Soleil. So again, when you're looking at businesses, you want to make sure you understand the key resources they need to actually operate their business model. Next, we have our customer segments, which represent the different groups of people or organizations in which our business model aims to serve. So in the case of our spice company, we have a variety of customers that we provide our spices to. Direct to restaurants. Also, they had relationships with grocery stores where they would white label their spice mixes. So for example, they would create the spice mix and maybe Kroger brand would slap their name on it, or they would create another spice mix and Publix would slap their name on it. So that was another customer segment. And then they had another customer segment, which was direct to consumer. And so that allowed them to have a diversification of their revenue streams in terms of having different relationships with a variety of customer segments. So let's go back to one of our examples we just used. So say, for example, you have Verizon Wireless. Verizon Wireless has a different customer segment than Boost Mobile because of the costs of their services. Two different price points in terms of the relationship that you have with Boost Mobile versus Verizon. In the same way, in the other example that we use, two different types of customers are going to visit Ringling Brothers and Barnum Circus versus Cirque du Soleil. And so you want to make sure that you understand your borrowers or your potential borrowers customer segment so you can ask them deeper questions. One other quick as I just went quick aside is that imagine as a loan officer and you're calling on a particular borrower and you're trying to get their business, and you have this business model canvas to use to help ask deeper questions to show that you really want to understand their business. Excuse me. So tell me about your value proposition. Tell me about your customer segments. Tell me about your key resources. And imagine how impressed the potential borrower would be about how you're asking them questions about their business. And so this helps with both the analysis side as well as your ability to sell your services to your potential borrowers. Let's move on. Next, we're going to talk about customer relationships. And one of the things I really want to point out about the difference between business models and business plans, and for those of you that are musicians, or even for those of you that aren't, you know, a business plan is like, I'd say, sheet music that you play the song the regular way in which you're supposed to play it. You know, you don't do any improvisation. However, with a business model, you have the ability to do some jazz and adjust to the tempo and adjust to how things are actually happening in your environment. And so your customer relationship, as defined by the business model canvas, is how you interact with your end user or your end customer. So in the example of our spice company, they had a variety of customer relationships depending on the segment that we were discussing. So for example, with their grocery store customers, there was a contract in place. So we were able to say, okay, they're going to be in this grocery store for 3 years, and that's a locked in revenue stream, versus perhaps our grocery store customers who were on the shelves, but they may buy us 1 week, they may not buy us another week. But then also we had locked in customers in relationships with restaurants. So that was also a locked in revenue stream. Okay. And so understanding the customer relationship, recognizing that we weren't waiting for folks to buy the spices off the shelf, also reduced some of the risk because we were able to see contracts that was able to solidify that they had revenues coming in. Just to kind of give you an example of how understanding your business model gives you the ability to be more nimble, just take a look at what's happening to small businesses in COVID. I was looking at the news the other day, and there was this young lady that had a cookie shop. She had just started it 3 years ago. She was just finding her way. She was successful. Her annual sales were up, and then COVID hit. She needed to change the nature of the relationship. So guess what she does now? As opposed to waiting for customers to come in, she sells ready to make baking packs with her cookie dough and with all the fixings, and she mails it out to them. Because understanding your business model allows for improvisation and allows for you to change as both the macro and micro environments change around you. Next, we're going to talk about key partnerships. Key partnerships are important. These are